So today I'm digging into Scream Factory's Ultra HD 4K version of Village of the Damned, John Carpenter's Village of the Damned from 1995, which this year is 30 years old, believe it or not. 30 years old for this movie, which some deem to be maybe one of Carpenter's weakest, certainly in the bottom half of his filmography for sure. Now, it was released on April 28th, 1995, and was made for a budget of around about 22 million, but as with a lot of Carpenter films, didn't quite work at the box office and only took around 9.4 million. It has 29% with the critics on Rotten Tomato and a paltry 33% with the audience, so it seems that a lot of fans didn't even like this movie when it first came out. But 30 years later, I'm gonna look at it again. I saw it on VHS because unfortunately the movie never quite made the cinemas in the UK, probably because of its poor worldwide gross of just 9.4 million, as I said. So we never saw a release in the UK of this movie, which was disappointing because every time I went to the cinema, the posters were on the wall, everything was laid out for this film to come out, and ultimately we never saw it. So the VHS I rented, and at the time I kind of was, I guess, disappointed. In the Mouth of Madness had come before it, and I was kind of a fan of that. That was okay, but then before that we'd had movies like They Live and Prince of Darkness as well, which for me are up there as some of his best films. So I always remember this being a kind of mediocre to fair effort for John Carpenter. I mean, cast-wise, we had a hell of a cast in this film for a John Carpenter film. Christopher Reeve, Kirstie Alley, Linda Kozlowski from the Crocodile Dundee movies, Mark Hamill was in there, and then usual Carpenter alum like Peter Jason, and even Buck Flowers pops up in it as well. But for me, it's the kids that are the star of this film. These eerie kids that this town gives birth to after an alien entity kind of cloaks the town, knocks all the residents unconscious, and when they come to, 10 of the women are pregnant, and they get told that if they want to have this baby, they will be paid $3,000 a month to go through with it. However, they must give up the right for the kids to be kind of studied and examined for that $3,000. And you know what? Everyone agrees. Everyone agrees in this town. All 10 residents that become pregnant agree to this money. And what happens? They're all born on the same day at the same time. These creepy little kids with these kind of albino-like looks and bleach blonde hair. All of them super intelligent, all of them super manipulative, and so all sorts of creepy goings-on happens within the town, which usually involves the kids forcing the parents to commit suicide in some way or another. And there are some really nasty moments in this, particularly the moment where Christopher Reeve's wife is forced to put her hand in a boiling pot of water multiple times. It's a really upsetting scene, and the kids are just standing there watching on as she's unable to do anything but dip her hand into this water. There are also all sorts of other various suicide happenings that go on, but it's not until later on in the film that Christopher Reeve figures out how to kind of block the thoughts of these young kids and try and save the town from kind of ultimate destruction, I guess. Now, the movie's based on The Midwich Cuckoos by John Wyndham, which was adapted into a British horror film during the 1960s, and so it's a kind of a remake of that. And so Shout Factory have brought us this, or Scream Factory, whichever you want to call them, have brought us this double disc version with some great extras, to be honest, on there. It's a Dolby Vision HDR10 restoration from the original camera negative. The blacks are deeper in this and the highlights pop. Color grading looks terrific. There's some natural grain there that they've retained, you know, to remind you that this was shot in the film back in the 90s. And it's significantly sharper than any release I've seen of this before. So I really enjoyed watching it. In fact, I've watched it twice over the last few months, and I've been thinking about doing this video for a while, and the guys over at That Halloween Movie Collector, Pat and Brett, recently reminded me that it's the 30th anniversary in the next few weeks. So I thought, it's a good time now to talk about it. There's an audio commentary on here with Jackson Stewart and Francis Galuppi. Again, probably some film historians that are providing a commentary. Haven't listened to it yet, but maybe I'll get round to it at some point. There's an interview with the screenwriter David Himmelstein, March of the Children, composing Village of the Damned, an interview with film music historian Daniel Schweiger, It takes a village, the making of Village of the Damned, Horrors Hallowed, I can never say this, Sean Clarke's program, Horrors Hallowed Grounds. There's an episode of that on here as well. The location that they filmed this, which is Inverness in California, it's absolutely beautiful. It kind of reminds you of the town that they use for the fog. In fact, I always feel like there's a kind of fog vibe to this movie. You know, that kind of small town, small community that are trying to deal with some sort of external force. And then you have a documentary here, which I was really looking forward to watching, given the recent passing of Peter Jason. There's a 45-minute interview with him about him and his relationship with John Carpenter and some of the ups and downs that they've had over the years, which was really fascinating because he was actually quite candid, and quite candid about Christopher Reeve as well, who I'm a huge fan of. So it was kind of nice to hear those little stories, and it does go on for a little while. So I feel like it's a really worthwhile addition to this 4K, because it doesn't just cover this movie, it covers all the movies he's been involved in, from Body Bags and Prince of Darkness to Escape from LA and Ghosts of Mars as well. Ghosts of Mars. And so to hear all those stories was quite refreshing. Sadly, it was Christopher Reeve's final movie before he had his accident, which is always quite an emotional thing. But he does look like an absolute Adonis in this film. He is ripped. I mean, he's still got those kind of statuesque looks and features of Clark Kent and Superman. And so it was really interesting to see him do this. You know, I don't think I've ever seen him in a horror film before. So I actually really enjoyed watching him. So how was this received when it first came out by the critics? Well, it was really panned, to be honest. People calling it distant, cold, uninspired. Roger Ebert gave it 2 stars, noting that it lacked tension and had complete tonal inconsistencies throughout. But over time, it's sort of been reevaluated by fans, and I think that I was probably a bit immature about my thoughts towards this film when it first came out, because being such a big Carpenter fan, I was used to his, you know, movies like Escape from New York, The Fog, The Thing, Halloween, Assault on Precinct 13, which to me are absolute classics, and this felt a little below par for him. But watching it now, because it's not a film of his I watch too often, I've kind of found a new respect for it. There are a lot of Carpenter moments in there, and you really appreciate the camera work that he's responsible for. And he still tried to keep his trademark Steadicam movements in there as well. There's some really delightful sweeping shots, and there's some great landscape in this film for you to kind of get into. I wouldn't say that it's particularly scary. The kids do a good job of unsettling you. So if you're a fan of like slow burn sci-fi or horror, creepy kid movies, and sort of director-driven genre filmmaking, then I think you'll find something to enjoy about this. I do think that it's not as bad as some of us have always been led to believe or have thought over the years. It's worth looking at again, and there's no better way to do it than checking out this Scream Factory 4K. They really have done a great job on it. It's definitely a worthwhile addition to my collection, and it's great to kind of rediscover movies again. Things that you were probably a little bit too immature to give a second chance back when you first saw it. I mean, 30 years ago, I was in my sort of early 20s, and I was probably just on to the next movie after this. But watching it again over the last few days, I actually kind of think it's okay. It's not a bad movie at all. I used to have it pegged as one of his worst, but I don't agree with that anymore. I think it's kind of middling for me. It's middling Carpenter. It's up there with the likes of, I'd say, In the Mouth of Madness and Starman, things like that. It's a really competently made film, I think. But I know there are people out there that will disagree with me. Now, are you disagreeing with me because you haven't seen it for so long and you've just got these kind of bad memories of it being a bit of a letdown? Or have you watched it recently and you kind of still hold that opinion? Let me know down below. I'd love to know what you guys think of Village of the Damned. I think it's an okay movie, I really do. But, you know, your responses will be welcome as well. So comment below, let me know what you think. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider it. And a like would be great too. Thanks a lot, guys. I shall see you soon.